to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism. Today we're fortunate to be joined by Allison Mazzei, the President of the Kansas Association of Broadcasters. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for finding time to meet with us. I know this is a busy weekend for you, but maybe you already have the planning in place for your big conference coming up.
There's so many last minute things to do that I questioned, why did I pack in another thing this week? But I'm so happy to be here. I mean, as you know, I'm a grad from the J School, and so it's always a pleasure to return and see my former alma mater.
And I know we talked briefly, you did focus on strategic communication during your time here, and now you work with a bunch of broadcasters. Has that been a smooth transition, or how's that been going?
You know, it's been a big learning process. So as you mentioned, when I was here at the J School, I was a strategic communications major and thought that I would go into, I don't know, I didn't have a grand plan upon graduation. So I thought maybe I would do advertising, or really I was thinking I would do broadcast media sales. So when I was a senior, actually found my internship at Channel 13 in Topeka through the Kansas Association of Broadcasters and worked in their sales department. And then ended up going a different direction. In 2008 was the Great Recession, and it was really difficult to find a job at that time. So.
And I know we talked about this too. You became president, I believe, like in June of 2020. Probably another good time not to be making a job change, height of the pandemic. How was that process?
It was a wild ride. So I started at KAB to back up, my interviews were supposed to take place in person at the Capitol in Topeka, and then shutdown happened. So this was March of 2020. And then, eventually got the job and started June 1, 2020. So personally, all of our lives felt completely turned upside down. And then I was making a major career change on top of that. So it was just like living outside of my comfort zone for quite a while. And it was challenging. I'm not going to say that it wasn't, because everything that the association, how it had functioned previously, we were in unprecedented times. So doing everything virtually for almost a year and a half, including our convention, not being able to meet board members in person for the first 6 to 8 months on the job was also challenging. A big part of this role is liaising with our member stations. And so not being able to go out there and do station visits was also challenging. It was also a very tumultuous time politically. And so for our journalists, there was a lot to deal with, especially in January of 2021. We all remember that. So I thought, you know what, every challenge I think I could have, I'm having year one. So it's just got to get easier from here, but I survived.
So once you were able to kind of shift to more of that face-to-face, I mean, did you feel like you got it a lot better?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a lonely first year on the job because the association is just myself and one other person. So once I was able to not only liaise with our members, but also my colleagues in other states, so other state broadcast association executives, they're my counterparts, and it was fun being able to finally meet them and receive their advice as well about the job.
So you mentioned you're pretty much on your own with one more worker. How does that dynamic work? I mean, I imagine you got to be pretty efficient.
Right. I mean, you definitely have to wear a lot of hats. So a skill set of being efficient with time management comes in handy, and just being able to work on the fly and feel like, be okay with winging it. Don't feel like you have to know how to do exactly everything in order to begin, I think was one of the biggest lessons learned for me. So I came from a background of fundraising and that has a sales component to it. So that was a big transferable skill into this job. But there were definitely new things I was learning. I'm our registered state lobbyist. I also represent our members' interests on a federal level. So going to the Capitol and serving in that role and monitoring the sessions, that was something new for me. So there was a learning curve for sure.
And before you joined the KB, I think it was about 12 years. You were like a vice president with Pennington, And again, that's kind of what, like a fundraising arm for sororities and fraternities?
Yes.
Okay.
So Pennington is located here in Lawrence, and I started there almost right out of school. And I thought that it was a great fit with my journalism degree because, I didn't come in as a senior vice president. I was initially hired as an alumni relations consultant, and that entailed a lot of writing for their direct mail for capital campaigns. So I was utilizing those skills I gained at the J School. Editing, grammar was very important and has really continued to serve me throughout my career. So those were skills I was really happy that I was able to utilize immediately and felt like I was using my degree. So I was there for the majority of my career, over 10 years, and eventually, worked my way up to be a senior vice president. But yes, helped manage capital campaigns and boards of directors for those campaigns for sororities and fraternities all across the United States.
And with that fundraising and sales, did you feel confident in your skills there, or was that something you kind of learned as you go?
I think you can always learn new skills.
Yeah.
I think some people are naturally going to feel more adept at connecting and having that sales mindset. I'm a people person and talkative, outgoing, so that lends itself naturally to sales. So I love it. I enjoy it. I want to encourage our broadcast students to think about going into also broadcast sales because it's such a great lucrative opportunity that I don't know that students are necessarily considering while in school. But it's another great alternative path to take in the field of broadcast.
And during your time at KU, were you involved in any on-campus activities, or were you just pretty much student?
I was involved. I actually interviewed to try to be on the sales staff for the UDK here, and wasn't selected. But I was in PRSA and then was involved in my sorority, which I still am to this day. I'm on the board here at KU, but I worked part-time to full-time hours the whole time I was a student at KU. So I've always had that mindset of working hard, and I think that any job you have is going to add to your skill set that you'll utilize throughout your career, I believe.
And during your time at KU, at the journalism school, was there a professor you connected with, or a certain class that really inspired you, or?
The one that stands out the most, and this might be true for all students, is campaigns. Because it is such a memorable experience in terms of you're anxious to know who your client's going to be, and you put so much work and effort into this project. It's with a group, collaborative, and that's not always an easy dynamic. And then the presentation, there's so much, writing on it. And I remember just being really proud of the work that my group did and enjoying the process. So that's the one that stands out the most for me.
Do you remember what your primary responsibility was with your campaigns class?
I was on the creative front, yeah. So I did all the advertisements for, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it was creative.
No, I hear a lot about campaigns, and yeah, it's like real client work, so I know it looks great on a resume too. I know with the KB conference coming up, I know you have workshops, and a big part of it is celebrating, because you have, what, three or four Hall of Famers that you can induct?
Three Hall of Famers, yes. So we actually have we're in Manhattan this year. Rival, no, I love K-State as well. But we're inducting 3 this year, one of which is Wyatt Thompson, who's the voice of the Wildcats. So we have a big Manhattan showing, so it makes sense for our location, but we're really excited. So the purpose of the association is to advocate, educate, and celebrate. And our convention is a big celebratory moment for us. It's our flagship event. We give out over 400 awards at our station awards dinner, so we have great participation. And then with our Hall of Fame, where we honor broadcasters who've had legacy careers, it's just incredible to hear those stories and learn what their work has meant to them. It's very moving. It's our highest honor, and it's one of my favorite events.
And one thing I should mention, we're about to be the new home for the Kansas Media Hall of Fame. I know we've worked with Allison briefly on setting some things up. It's going to be down the hall here at Stauffer Flint, so we hope that goes live January. So yeah, we're super excited to be the host, new home for that. One last question. I know we're, about 7 months away from graduation day in May. Do you have any advice to the new class? I know you kind of touched on those transferable skills and presenting yourself. Any other last message you'd like to share?
I guess the best advice I received and still adhere to this day is to cultivate your own personal board of directors. So as a student, that could be a professor that you have a good relationship with, even a parent, a boss. For myself, I have 3 or 4, and those are individuals that you can turn to throughout your professional career to gain wisdom, seek advice. Having someone in your corner to build you up, but also to give you, shoot it straight, I think is really important. And you need that team. You need that team in any phase of career, I think.
Well said, Allison. Hey, I appreciate your time. Good luck with your conference this
Thank
weekend.
you.
I'll be there. And cheers to your career.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks for having me.